Hi, this is Anil from Learning Lad and welcome back to another tutorial on C programming language. And in this tutorial, we're gonna learn how we can write a C program to check the number entered by the user is a perfect number or not. So here in this tutorial, first I'm gonna explain what is a perfect number, and then I'm gonna tell you guys which logic we're gonna use in this program. And then we're gonna write the program. We can ask the user to enter a number, and then we're gonna check and display whether the entered number was the perfect number or not. And in the end, I'm also gonna show you guys how you can modify this program and produce the perfect numbers from a particular range. For example, you can list the perfect numbers from 1 to 100 or 1 to 1000. So we're gonna see all these things in this tutorial, and first we're gonna get started with what is a perfect number. A perfect number is a positive integer that is equal to the sum of its proper positive divisors. That is the sum of its positive divisors excluding the number itself. So here, for example, let's say we're gonna have the number 6. Now for this number 6, the proper positive divisors excluding this number 6 itself are 1 and then 2 and then 3. When you divide this 6 by 1 or 2 or 3, you're gonna get the remainder 0. So if you're gonna divide this 6 by using 4, then the remainder will not be 0. And that's why 4 is not the proper positive divisor of this number 6. But this 1, 2 and 3 are the proper positive divisors of this number 6. Now if you're gonna add this proper positive divisors, 1 plus 2 plus 3, then you're gonna get 6, which is this number itself, and that's why this 6 is the perfect number. And similarly, if you're gonna check out for the number 8, then the proper positive divisors of this number 8 excluding this number itself are 1, 2 and then 4. If you divide this number 8 by using 1 or 2 or 4, you're gonna get the remainder as 0. So if you're gonna add this 1 plus 2 and 4, you're gonna get 7. So this 7 is not equal to this number 8, and that's why this 8 is not a perfect number. So now I hope you guys know what is a perfect number. Now before writing this program, I want to show you guys which logic we're going to use in this program. And here in this program we can use some variables, and one variable is going to be called number, another variable is going to be called sum, and another variable is going to be called rem. So here in this number variable, as I told you before, we're going to be asking the user to enter the number to check for perfect number or not. So the number entered by the user will be stored in this number variable. Now in this sum variable, what we're gonna do is we're gonna find out the proper positive divisors of the number entered by the user, and we're gonna add that proper positive divisors and we're gonna store them in this sum variable. By default, we're gonna initialize this sum variable with a value of 0. So when we start finding out the proper positive divisors, we're gonna add them to this sum variable's value. So for example, first we're gonna find out 1, then we're gonna add that to this sum variable's value. So by default it's gonna be 0, so when we add 1, it's gonna become 1. And then if you're gonna find out any other positive divisor, for example 2, then you're gonna add that 2 to this sum variable's value. So it was 1, then plus 2, then it's gonna become 3, like that. And then another variable that we're gonna use in this program is called as rem. Here it is a short form of the remainder. You can give any name for the variables, so I just gave it rem. And here, while finding out the proper positive divisors, we need to find out the remainder, and for that purpose we're gonna be using this variable. Whenever we're gonna find the remainder value, we're gonna store that in this rem variable. So if it is confusing for you guys now about these variables, then don't worry, when we're gonna write the program, it's gonna be all clear. So here what we're gonna do is, let's say the user is gonna enter a number called 6. Now first what we need to do is we need to find the proper positive divisors of this number 6, and we need to exclude the number 6 itself. So we're gonna start from 1 and we're gonna move up to 5. We're gonna check whether this 1 is the proper positive divisor of this number 6, and we can find out that by doing 6 mod 1. So we can use this modulus operator. So when you do 6 mod 1, if you get the remainder as 0, as I told you before, we're going to be using this rem variable to store this remainder value. So if we get this remainder as 0, then it's going to mean that this 1 is the proper positive divisor of this number 6. So we're going to add this 1 to this sum variable's value. By default it was 0, so now it's going to become 1. And then we move to the next number. So we're going to move to 2. And here again we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do 6 mod 2. Now here again we're going to check out for the remainder's value. If we're going to get the remainder as 0, here in this case we will get the remainder as 0, then it's going to mean that this 2 is the proper positive divisor of this number 6. So we're going to add that to this sum variable's value. Previously it was 1, now it's going to become 3. And then again we're going to check for the number 3. So we're going to do 6 mod 3. And then again we're going to get the remainder as 0. So we're going to add this 3 to this sum variable's value. And then we're going to check for the number 4. We're going to do 6 mod 4, and this time we're going to get the remainder as 2. Now since this remainder is 2, this 4 is not the proper divisor of this number 6, and that's why we're not going to add this 4 to this sum variable's value. And then we're going to move on to the next number and we're going to check for the 5. So we're going to check 6 mod 5. And this time we're going to get the remainder 1. Since this remainder is not 0, this 5 is not the proper positive divisor of this number 6. So we're going to ignore this 5 also. Now we have started from 1 and we have checked for the numbers up to 6 minus 1, which is 5. So now we know what are the proper positive divisors of this number 6. They are 1, 2 and 3. So we have the sum of these proper positive divisors in this sum variable, which is equal to 6. And then what we're going to do is we're going to compare this sum variable's value with this number 6. If it is equal, then we're going to say the number 6 which is entered by the user is a perfect number. If this sum is not equal to number, then we're going to say, the number entered by the user is not the perfect number. Now, before writing this program, I want to show you guys one more thing. If you look at this here, we started from 1 and we moved up to 5. 6 is the number entered by the user. So we moved up to 5, 6 minus 1. But the thing is, we can easily say that there is no way that this 4 and 5 can divide this number 6 and produce the remainder 0. And that's why there is no need to check for this number 4 and 5. Because they can't be the proper positive divisors of this number 6. So the general rule that we can use is, for example, if the user is gonna enter the number, let's say n, then we can check for the proper positive divisors from 1 to n divided by 2. So once we cross this n divided by 2 value, there is no way that the next values can divide that number n. For example, let's say user is gonna enter 8. Then the proper positive divisors of this number 8 can lie in the range from 1 to 4. There is no way that 5, 6 and 7 can divide this number 8 and produce the remainder as 0. And that's why we need to check only from 1 to 4. If you want, you can check for 5, 6 and 7, but you're just wasting the processing time. And that's why we're not gonna do that. We try to optimize our program. So we're gonna check for 1 to 4. Alright, Now we're gonna see how we can write this program. So here I have already included the stdio.h header file to my program, and I have written the main function. Now first what we're gonna do is we're gonna declare the variables that we're gonna use in this program. So here we can ask the user to enter the integer value. So we're gonna need some integer variables. So I'm gonna use the data type as int, and my first variable is gonna be number, and then another variable is gonna be rem, to store the reminder value, and then another variable is gonna be I. We're gonna be using this I variable just because we are using a loop here. So as a loop counter variable, you're gonna be using this I. And then the last variable that we're gonna need is called sum, and I'm gonna initialize this variable sum with the value of 0. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna ask the user to enter the number. So it's gonna be a printf statement, and here I'm gonna say enter the number, and then let's add a new line here. All right, then we're gonna use the scanf function, and we're gonna read the input entered by the user, and we're gonna store that in this number variable. So I'm gonna use the format specifier as %d because this number variable is of integer type, and here we can use the and symbol and the number variable here in this kind of function. Now what we have done is we have asked the user to enter the number, and we have read that input, and we have stored that in this number variable. Now we need to find out the proper positive divisors of the number entered by the user. So as I told you before, we need to start from 1, and we need to check for the positive divisors up to this number divided by 2. For example, user is gonna enter the number 6, then we need to start checking from 1, and we need to perform that up to 6 divided by 2. So we need to start from 1, and we need to check up to 3. So here for that purpose I'm gonna use a for loop, and here I'm gonna initialize this I variable. As I told you before, this I is gonna be our loop counter variable, and I'm gonna initialize that with the value of 1 because we want to find the proper positive divisors. So we're gonna start from 1, and then we need to have the condition here, how long we want to run this for loop. We want to run this for loop until we reach number divided by 2. So our condition is gonna be I less than or equal to number divided by 2. So here we're gonna be starting from 1, and we want to run this for loop until we reach number divided by 2. So whenever this condition is gonna satisfy, we're gonna be running this for loop, and then we're gonna be incrementing the value of this I variable with 1. So with every iteration we're gonna be moving to the next number. All right, now here inside this for loop, first what we need to do is we need to find the remainder when you divide this number by the value of this variable I. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do number mod I. To find out the remainder, we're gonna use the mod operator, and here you guys can see. So what happens is for the first iteration, this I will contain 1. So when you do number mod I, let's say the user is gonna enter the value 6. So at that time it's gonna become 6 mod 1. So this statement will produce the remainder. So we're gonna store that remainder value in this rem variable. So for every iteration, this I variable's value will keep on changing. It will start from 1, and it will keep on incrementing to 2, 3, 4, and like that, if this condition satisfies. And for every iteration, whenever we're gonna find the remainder, we're gonna store that in this rem variable. So now we have the remainder in this rem variable. Now the next thing that we want to do is we're gonna check whether that remainder value which we have, whether that is equal to 0. If it is equal to 0, then it's gonna mean that the number stored in this variable I is gonna divide this number entered by the user completely. In other words, the number stored in this variable I is the proper positive divisor of the number entered by the user. So you're gonna check for the reminder's value. So I'm gonna use the if statement. If reminder or rem equal to 0. Here we are using this comparison operator equal to, and if the reminder equal to 0, then it's gonna mean that the value stored in this variable I is the proper positive divisor of the number. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add that proper positive divisor, or we're gonna add that value of I to the sum variable's value. So we're gonna do sum equal to sum plus I. Instead of storing that proper positive divisor, we're gonna be calculating the sum right here. So we're gonna do sum equal to sum plus I. All right. Now this for loop, it will find the proper positive divisors of the number, and also it will find the sum of the proper positive divisors of the number entered by the user. Now the last thing that we need to do here is we need to check whether the sum we have found out, whether that is equal to the number itself. If it is so, then it's gonna mean that the number entered by the user is a perfect number. So I'm gonna use the if statement here, and I'm gonna have the condition as number equal to sum. If it is so, we're gonna print out that the number entered by the user is the perfect number. So I'm gonna use the printf statement, and I'm gonna say number %d is a perfect number. Then add a new line, and here we're gonna refer number variable, and if this number is not equal to the sum variable's value, then we're gonna have the else part, and we're gonna say the number entered by the user is not a perfect number. All right, now we're gonna save this program, and I'm gonna build and run this. So it's gonna be build and run, enter the number. I'm gonna enter 6, and I'm gonna hit the enter button in my keyboard, and it says number 6 is a perfect number. Now I'm gonna close this program, and I'm gonna build and run it again, and this time I'm gonna enter, let's say 8, and I'm gonna hit the enter button again, and it says number 8 is not a perfect number. Now I'm gonna run it again, and this time I'm gonna enter 9. So when I hit the enter button, it says number 9 is not a perfect number. So what happens when you enter the number 9 here? This I will start from 1, and this I less than equal to number divided by 2. So number is 9, so 9 divided by 2, which is gonna be 4.5. But here this number is of integer type, and that's why the decimal part will be ignored. So it's gonna become I less than or equal to 4. So when you have the number as 9, this number divided by 2 will become 4 instead of 4.5 because of these integer types of data type which we have used here. All right, now as I told you before, the last thing that I want to show you guys is how we can modify this program and list the perfect numbers within a particular range. For example, you want to list the perfect numbers from 1 to 100. So we're gonna modify this program, and for that purpose I'm gonna comment out this input part. I'm gonna comment out this printf and scanf function, and then I'm also gonna comment out this else part here in the end. All right, now here we're gonna have a for loop before our this for loop. So it's gonna be for, and let's say we want to list the perfect numbers from 1 to 100. So we're gonna use this number variable. number equal to 1, and our condition is going to be number less than or equal to 100. If you want to produce or list the perfect numbers from 1 to 1000, then you just need to change this one to 1000 here. So then we're gonna have a number plus plus, and then let's open the for loop here, for loop body, by using this curly brace, and we want to run this for loop up to here. And with every iteration we want to reset the value of the sum variable, so we're gonna set sum equal to 0. All right, now this program and this alteration is gonna list the perfect numbers within a particular range. So here it will list from 1 to 100. So I'm gonna save this program and I'm gonna build and run this. So number 6 is a perfect number, number 28 is a perfect number. So between 1 and 100, number 6 and 28 are the only two perfect numbers. So now if I change this one to 1000 and build and run it again, 6, 28 and 496. Now here we have initialized this sum to 0 for every iteration of this outer for loop, because when you're gonna find the sum of the proper positive divisor of a number, when you move on to the next number, you want to find out the sum for only for that particular number. That's why we need to reset this sum variables value here. All right, this is how you guys can write a C program to find the perfect numbers between a particular range, or also this is how you guys can check whether the number entered by the user is a perfect number or not. So thank you for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, so whenever I upload new videos you're gonna get notified. And also you guys can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/learninglad, and you guys can follow us on Twitter at learninglad.edu, and also you guys can check out my website learninglad.com for more tutorials. So once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.